I guess I kind of find it hard to believe that you believe in that theory. Why? Because you yourself were convicted because you blew the whistle on torturing strategies of the CIA.
Mhm.
Yet you still believe the theory that the government has told us via the media.
No. It's not that I believe the theory the government told us. It's that I looked at the evidence and came to my own analytic conclusion.
I just find it very, even forget about all these conspiracy theories of, well, the plane just crashes into a building. I've talked to many structural engineers. A lot of them have said,
Sure,
it's impossible for that building to
yes,
collapse.
but the thing is there are an equal number of structural engineers who say those guys are just wrong. That's what I mean.
Of course.
We have to lay out the evidence.
But how do you, because I mean, Osama bin Laden, yes, he had a lot of money. But to be able to pull it off, just like kind of if we compare it to what happened on October 7th, which is on a much smaller scale than what took place on 9/11, as far as the damage that it caused. More people have been killed, unfortunately, between October 7th and today.
Many more.
But to believe that, for instance, Mossad had no idea that that Hamas was going to attack.
I don't believe that for a second.
So then how do you believe that Al-Qaeda could have attacked, or Osama bin Laden could have attacked us via airplanes and we had no idea?
Because I listened to the intercepts. I was reading the intelligence. I was participating in these meetings saying that this massive attack is coming. We have to figure out how to head it off. It's all based on the evidence.
Do you see the CIA at the time is roughly around 50 years old?
Yeah, right.
And
53.
Roughly.
Yeah.
And with the amount of experience that they have, how do you miss an attack like that? Do you think it was willfully missed, or do you think it was?
No, see, this is another misconception. Another misconception is that the United States needs a provocation. Sorry, let me rephrase that. That the United States needs a provocation to go out and start killing people. Like, we would really like to kill lots of Muslims, so we should attack ourselves. That'll give us the excuse. No. If we want to kill Muslims, we just go out and kill Muslims. You don't need a provocation.
A false flag?
No. The Israelis do lots of false flags. You know how complicated false flags are? How many moving parts? And you have any idea how fucking retarded so many people are in government? They're too stupid to make a false flag successful. It's just too many moving parts. I think we have a tendency to underestimate incompetence in government. I really do. Plus, at the time, and I'm actually glad you mentioned this because this is a good time to bring it up. At the time, you had a White House that was obsessed with China. That the fight is with China, not with these guys wearing sheets. They're no threat to us. You had George Tenet and Dick Clark, who was the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism, screaming at Condi Rice that Al-Qaeda is going to attack us. And she said, you too? Again with this Al-Qaeda? The threat's from China, not Al-Qaeda. And they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't increase the budget. They wouldn't approve covert action programs. They wouldn't do anything because she believed she was a terrible national security advisor and an equally bad Secretary of State. She believed that the threat was from China and that these guys were idiots for trying to keep the CIA focused on Arabs.
What if that was by design, John? To keep them
and then
in the dark.
And then who would be the beneficiary though? I mean, Condi Rice is not this intellectual giant who's going to, have a shadow government operating behind the actual deep state.
I mean, you have AIPAC, right? You have, you just said to yourself that Israel is more commonly known to do false flag attacks.
Sure. Well,
the owner of the building was Israeli.
Let me interrupt you on that, on that score. I would agree with you as it applies to Iraq, because literally on September 12th, there were prominent Jewish Americans at the White House saying, we have to attack Iraq for this, right?
Not Afghanistan.
Iraq. Iraq. And the fact that Al-Qaeda hated Saddam Hussein as much as he hated us was irrelevant to them. I'll give you another example. You've heard of Ahmed Chalabi, I'm sure. So Ahmed Chalabi, we have a little time. I'll tell you a little story. So Ahmed Chalabi was very unusual in that he was a Shia Muslim Iraqi Kurd. There are like, a dozen of them. I'm exaggerating, of course, but Kurds are mostly Sunni.
It's a hell of a mutt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a mutt.
Mm-hmm.
So his parents left Iraq in 1965 before the Ba'ath Party came to power. So pre-Saddam, pre-Ba'ath, pre-everything. It was still a kingdom at the time. They moved to Jordan. And he went to school in the UK, got an MBA, got a PhD, and went back to Jordan and created a bank called Petra Bank. And it catered to Iraqi immigrants and refugees. So the bank became like the go-to place if you were Iraqi to put your savings, your retirement, you had your checking account. Well, he ended up just stealing all of it, every dollar of it. And the story is that he escaped to Syria in the trunk of his secretary's car and made his way back to London, where he had this, $20 million townhouse in Mayfair by Harrods and, lived happily ever after. Well, he started promoting himself as the alternative to Saddam Hussein. Why? Because he's pro-American, he's pro-British, he's pro-Israeli, and if you guys overthrow Saddam Hussein, just make me president, and I'll give you anything you want. So in 1991, the CIA created this organization called the Iraqi National Congress. They created it in a hotel conference room in Vienna, Austria. And what it was supposed to be was representatives from like 24 different Iraqi exile groups. Every Iraqi who ever left the country and had a position of import in the Iraqi government. Maybe you were an ambassador, maybe you were a general, maybe you were the head of the intelligence service, and then you fled. You made your own little group, and it was in London or Brussels or Geneva or whatever. So they all came together in Vienna, and they all made up this group that the CIA created and funded called the Iraqi National Congress. And we named Ahmed Chalabi the director, the president of the Iraqi National Congress. King Hussein says, "Oh, no, you don't. This guy was sentenced to death in Jordan for stealing all the money from Petra Bank. There are thousands of Iraqi refugees who are destitute now because he stole their money." So the CIA said, okay, how about if he gives most of the money back and then you guys drop the death penalty charge against him? The Jordanians didn't like that, but we sweetened the deal a little bit. And okay, fine. They back off the case against Chalabi. So the CIA begins to fund Chalabi and the Iraqi National Congress in 1991. And then we notice very quickly that all the money starts disappearing. And that Chalabi's wearing $5,000 suits, and he's driving a Maybach, and he has a new house in Geneva, and he has a new house in Washington. And we're like, what the fuck are you doing? So the CIA issues what's called a burn notice on him. That's literally everybody in the CIA gets an email or a cable that says you are not permitted to do business with this Ahmed Chalabi. He's burned. He's dead to us. Okay, fast forward to 2001. 9/11 happens. Dick Cheney says the Iraqis did it. We said the Iraqis didn't do it. Al-Qaeda did it. No, Al-Qaeda did it partnering with the Iraqis. We're like, what do you base that on? You can't just make shit up and then create foreign policy based on, your fantasies.
Well, remember, we're talking about a warmongering Dick Cheney here.
Exactly. And so Dick Cheney ordered us to start talking to Ahmed Chalabi. We said, no, we're not going to do it. We burned him 9 years ago because he's a liar and he's a thief.
But he's westernized.
Yeah. The CIA had enough. We lost millions and millions of dollars that went right into Chalabi's pocket. So here's what happened. Cheney creates a new position at the Pentagon called Undersecretary for Intelligence. And we said, you don't need an Undersecretary for Intelligence because you have the Defense Intelligence Agency that handles your intelligence. and we work with them. Nope, we're going to have a new position, Undersecretary of Intelligence. And then we start receiving at the CIA these cables called DODIRs, Department of Defense Intelligence Reports. I'll never forget it. We start getting these reports. I was the Iraq briefer for the director at the time, CIA. We're getting these reports like, you've got to be kidding me. Did you see this DODIR? It says that the Iraqi station chief in Prague was meeting with Al-Qaeda a month before the attacks. Like that's an act of war. Okay, so what's the source? It says a reliable source. Well, at the CIA, the words reliable source mean something. It means you have formally recruited the source, you have polygraphed him, he has passed the polygraph, and the previous information that he's given you has proven to be true.
In short terms, it's a confirmed source.
Confirmed. 100%.
It's not a trust me, bro. Not one of those.
So when we called the Pentagon, we said, we want to see the source. They said, trust me, bro. So a couple of us went to, management, the deputy director and the associate deputy directors, and said, we think the Pentagon's source is Ahmed Chalabi. And they said, well, we're not supposed to, nobody's supposed to have any contact with Chalabi. I said, but literally every intelligence report that's coming in confirms what Dick Cheney has been screaming about.
Did you enjoy that clip? Click over here to watch the full episode and click over here to subscribe to the WiseNuts podcast YouTube channel.